What is going on, everyone? Justin here from the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We're on for 2 hours with the throw-in on this beautiful Friday, April 21st, 2023. And I'm going to take a moment to myself because Sunday is my birthday. We'll be celebrating 28 years on this lovely planet. And man, time flies so so fast. I got a wonderful weekend planned ahead of us. It's supposed to rain today, but got some sports going on. Excited to get out to some things, and then got both girls are actually at sports tomorrow, and so my youngest is gonna be at soccer, and then the other one's going to be at softball right afterwards. So a lot of stuff in the midday action, and also talking about everything that's going on tomorrow night. If you guys want some Major League Baseball, join us here 6:30 pregame show for the Boston Red Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. Scheduled to start around 7:10. And we're looking forward to being on the program here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, calling you play-by-play and broadcasting that game. So pregame 6:30, 7:10 first pitch, and I'm hoping it's going to be a good game. They begin a 3-game series with each other, the Boston Red Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's for that. And then my birthday is actually on Sunday. So, gonna just relax with the kids, hang out with them, and be able to just share a filled day. It's supposed to be pretty chilly. We don't know what we're gonna do quite yet, so we're kind of up in the air with that. But we got to get through today's first, and I know that this week hasn't been the best of programs. Did one on Tuesday, was not here Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and trust me, you guys, if you guys get frustrated because if I'm not live, I'm not doing a broadcast, I get frustrated as too because it gets me out of the rhythm. There's a lot of news that we don't cover that we should be covering. I did feel though there was a bit of a lackluster week in the world of news and sports to cover for you guys. So as much as I'm disappointed, I'm also maybe pretty relieved because we didn't have a lot to talk about yesterday, and there really wasn't a lot to talk about the day before. So trying to maybe catch up, today's gonna be definitely more of an impactful weekend program for the next 2 hours. Take you guys up until noon, and then we'll be back next week to start it all over and try to do better. I will steal a quote from a friend of mine over there at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. If you haven't checked out their podcast yet, I recommend heading out to Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast and listening to Steve Barber and Dwayne Davis talk about the world of professional wrestling. They cover it all. It's been up and down lately, but lately they've been using the term, life happens, business happens. And that's kind of where it's been for me. Got a couple appointments this week, had a couple of meetings this week. I attempted to have time frames on when I wanted to start throughout the week, but then there was just one thing after the other. And so it was a bit difficult to put on a program. Had the maintenance guy come, I want to say Wednesday. So that kind of just tore a lot of it apart. Yesterday I had a couple of meetings. So, it's just life. And that's one good thing about doing a podcast at your own convenience is that you get to pick and choose your time and dates. it's just frustrating because we like to stay on a habit here on this program and give you a consistent 5 days a week program, especially with everything going on. We got, WWE is changing all the time. We have Cincinnati Reds, who we'll talk about here in just a moment, and then the NFL draft. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is going on. All right, so talking about the Cincinnati Reds and the draft, I thought it was just appropriate to kick things off with the Cincinnati Reds. And something that broke away Tuesday, I wanted to talk to everyone on Wednesday about it, but then life happened, had to be about the new contract for right-handed pitcher Hunter Greene. Okay. And let me tell you something. I think I think came to me as a shock to see Hunter Greene, to see the Cincinnati Reds willing to extend a contract with Hunter Greene, okay, for the longevity time that he, this is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, okay, and I may very well be mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, this is the first contract for the existing team that takes place after 2023. There's no other contracts that, I think Joey Votto's done this year, with his contract. There's no other contracts for this current ball club that is extended past 2023, which is a huge news. And so, as you see on the screen here, largest pre-arbitration contract the Reds have had given on one of their players. Okay. This is really exciting news because it does a lot of things, I think, for this organization. For one, for the front office to say, all right, in April, and especially after a bit of a scary start, which X-rays, after Monday having that ball hit off of his right leg in the third inning, and he was taken out of the game after the third inning, and he's expected to pitch later on in this Pirate series that we'll get to. But he was, we're talking about Hunter Greene the day after that scary incident, him getting a contract extension. And I knew that Hunter Greene was going to be on this ball club. This is kind of one of the pioneer pieces for this Reds organization to extend in the near future. We talk about this 2023 look, right? Every couple years. And Hunter Greene is probably the key source. And if not, Hunter Greene is one of those guys that they're building around, especially around that that rotation. You got Nick Lodolo in there, Graham Ashcraft is in there, and so we see guys like Brandon Williamson expected to be up this year, Levi Stroud, who made his debut back on Wednesday. And so he's kind of that pinpoint piece around that rotation. And then there's guys like Jonathan India down out there on the field, who then the Reds could build around defensively and offensively, right? Tyler Stevenson. So in a realistic look, this is a good step in the right direction. And I was sitting here, I was thinking about this last couple of days. I was like, man, there is so much stuff that's already happened for the Cincinnati Reds. Now, we're not sitting here talking about, oh man, they're going to go on and win the National League Central. This is a team that's going to win the World Series this year. They're like some other teams. But this is part of the reasons why this is what we get excited about. For an organization that is expected, that has expectations from every other ball club, every other resource out there to do terrible, we're trying to put the pieces together, and we get to watch the Cincinnati Reds, David Bell, Nick Kroll, and the Castellinis, and God forbid I said his name, said the family's name here in April, but we are looking to put the pieces together. And this is the way that this organization is going to need to look at it, right? If these players are expected to be on the organization in 2026, we need to influence them that this is the spot to be at. And we signed up Hunter Greene, 6 years, $53 million contract, taking him through the 2028 season with a club option for the 2029 season. And before we really get more into this, let's go ahead and break this down. All right, this is how that contract breaks down here. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So this year, it starts immediately, where this year he's going to collect $1 million. Next year is going to triple in $3 million. In 2025, he'll collect $6 million. 2026, he'll collect $8 million. 2027, he'll collect $15 million. In 28, he'll collect $16 million. And if the club option in 2029, he could collect $21 million, or the club could buy him out or buy out for $2 million. Say, all right, here's your $2 million. Good luck. And, I think this does a little bit for everybody in the sense of motivation. As a fan, there's a motivation. I see it. I see, all right, this is the first big, legit deal that I see, and I'm actually excited to see what comes up. I also am legit, and I'm also excited about for the fact and the idea that for the next, this year, next year, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, that's 7 years, 7 years, that the Cincinnati Reds have a relief guy that I think, he hasn't even touched his max potential yet. He's still growing, and he's still very new into this organization. And to be able to grow for the next 6 years, I see if you put him around, if you build your rotation around him, then I think you're going to have a solid rotation for the next 6 years. And so I think that this is a really good deal. I really like this deal. And I think this also, as a fan, you see of it, if you're a ball player on the Reds, if you are with the, if you're Jonathan India, if you're Nick Lodolo, if you're Graham Ashcraft, if you're Tyler Stevenson, this is what could be as long as the Reds continue to move down this path. This is what it could be. We can see, and I'm hoping that down the road, we will get a chance to see further contract signings, right? Further contract extensions, such as Lodolo, which I think he could be locked up 5 years. Graham Ashcraft is again. You also got, Jonathan India out there, maybe Jake Fraley. We see Tyler Stevenson definitely. I want to see locked up for the duration of this run, especially now. Here's also the other thing I think I realize is that there's also now a table, right? We're expected between the next 6 years that Hunter Greene is going to be on the ball club, that we get something done and we don't waste this contract. So really big news coming out of Cincinnati this week. It kind of also it kind of also distracted a lot of people because the Reds haven't won since Monday. They've lost 2 or 3 against Tampa Bay, expected, right? But then they also fell short last night, 4-3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates here, as we'll talk about last night's game and get you guys ready for the weekend. Well, what does this mean down the road? Yes, there are contracts and opportunity, but there's also other excitements. We saw Levi Stroud, who got the call up back on Wednesday to give Hunter Greene an extra day. We saw Luke Weaver make his 2023 debut. Hunter Greene is expected to be back Sunday. We'll talk about that. I don't really quite recommend it, but we'll see, especially depending how this series goes against the Pirates over the weekend. But, also other things. We know that Brandon Williamson's working down there. We also found out that Christian Encarnacion-Strand's back, is starting to get healthy. Ellie De La Cruz just joined the AAA ball club after coming back off the IL. So this contract for Hunter Greene indicates, with everything else that's tumbling in, is that we're seeing the progression. We're seeing the thrive down in the minors come And right now, win or losing, we're seeing the developmental part, which is exciting. And hopefully in 2 or 3 years from now, we can start talking about, all right, everything getting put into place and the Reds start following through. So that is just to kick off our program. What do we have in store for you guys today? Well, we're going to talk about the Reds and Pirates, get you guys ready for the series, get you guys ready for the National League Central and the standings and all that still to come. We'll get you an update on the NBA and NHL playoffs as well. And we'll also talk about a little bit about NFL, as we are now 6 days away from the NFL draft, which is next Thursday. So we want to look at, starting to look at the top 10s, starting to look at our predictions on who we like favored in what slot and who really needs desperate for quarterbacks this year, because they're very limited. And, as an organization that doesn't perform well last season, do you jump onto a quarterback or do you build your team before getting a quarterback? That's a conversation that we have to have. We also have WWE SmackDown tonight, as a couple of title matches are up for grabs, as Xavier Woods takes on Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, as well as Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan defending their women's tag team titles against Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. That's all tonight on SmackDown ahead of the WWE draft, which is also a week from today in 6 days. So busy program on a Friday morning, wherever you guys are listening from. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, thank you. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. Facebook, Twitter, hit that like button. Share it with a friend. Let them know we're live for the next 2 hours. Everyone hop on over to our YouTube page to leave comments, get involved into the chats. I want to hear from you. How do you guys feel about this Hunter Greene's deal? Let me know. We'll talk about that on our program today. Also, if you guys are listening to us on audio platforms, you guys are downloading us on all major audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We thank you. Appreciate you making our program a listening show. Take it on the road with you wherever you go, at work, at home, in the car. Don't miss a single episode. All right, so let's step away and take a time out, and we'll come back and continue the program. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
James, who has settled in nicely as the leadoff man for the Pirates.
Top left side, and that's going to get through. They want to try and pick up where they left off yesterday. Here's Brian Reynolds, and a 4-pitch walk following the ground single by Hayes. It brings up Andrew McCutcheon. This could be some kind of start to this homestand.
He sets and delivers, and McCutcheon dribbles it toward first base, and fielded by Vossler. He'll get it over to the pitcher Weaver covering for the out.
Hayes to third, Reynolds to second.
Here's Connor Joe, righty batter, hitting at .340.
Driven deep to center field. Back sends out to the wall. Clear the deck. Cannon ball coming. Connor Joe gives the Pirates a 3-0 lead back at PNC Park.
It's just remarkable how he's driving the ball into the gap.
Sawinski sends one to deep right field. This should clear the seats. Oh, the very back row. He's homered again.
Put a jalapeno on that, Hannah. A monster shot by Sawinski. Back to back. It is 4-0. That's his fifth.
Move over, Lumber Company. These 23 plucks are having some fun.
Reds haven't scored in 24 consecutive innings. Comebacker by Fraley. He's on for a second time. Stevenson turned on a fastball up and in for a double his last time. Up and in, Stevenson walks. 2 on, nobody out.
Will Myers will be the batter.
Bounce left side, picked by Hayes. Throw to second, one to first, picked by Santana. What a double play! Sensational! That's a zip-zap kazoo as the Buccos just turned 2.
Batters left-hander Jason Vossler with Fraley now at third base, 2 outs.
In the air, center field. In front of Sawinski, Fraley scores. The Reds' first hit in 6 at-bats with a man in scoring position tonight.
The Reds have snapped their scoreless streak, and it ends in 24 innings.
Oh, the new pitcher, Holland Holderman.
Weak tapper. Holderman, bare hand. Bouncing throw gets away. Barrero turns. The right fielder, Joe, from the warning track to second. Head first line, that gets away. But Reynolds able to pounce in shallow left, and Barrero is at second base to ignite the 8th.
Now Jonathan India will stand in with a runner at second base.
That whistles by. Barrero races for third. Trouble on the bare hand for Hedges.
So Barrero into third on the wild pitch.
Hard ground ball, right side, base hit. Barrero scores. India's third knock of the night, and the Reds creep within 2.
Well, I mean, he's been hitting the ball all over the place. And to the right side, where he's got a little bit of some daylight, drives that run in from third base.
And now T.J. Friedel, the runner on at first and nobody out.
Hard ground ball, past Bay, base hit. India shuts it down at second. It's 3 straight hits for the Reds to spark the 8th. A run in, 2 on, the go-ahead run at the plate. Spencer Steer's first action since Sunday. He is 0 for 3 so far tonight. Runners go, double steal, pitch in, no chance for a throw. Excellent jumps by India and Friedel, and the tying run is in scoring position. That's a blast to left, a twisted Reynolds. Hobson catches the ball. Runners tag. India roars in, throw to third. No shot. India scores standing. Friedel claims third. Sac fly on the eye. It's a 1-run game.
Here we go, 9th inning, and the Pirates, they've got the lead 4-3 over the Reds, trying to make it 4 straight victories, and they'll bring on the closer, David Bednar.
The Reds are down to their final out.
Now Nick Senzel, 0 for 3 tonight.
Fly ball, left field. Left center now, and Bay raised the Jolly Roger. The jig is up, the news is out as the Renegade saves it for Contreras. Pirates have won 5 of 6, 12 of 17.
Man, what a devastating way to start off a road series. And this is the part of the 20 consecutive game stretch that the Reds kind of have to face. Alone, I wouldn't say alone, but this is where the struggles really lasted. I mean, you had to go to Philadelphia, go to Atlanta, come home from Philadelphia again, and then be able to take on Tampa Bay, which is considerably one of the better teams. And you fall 2-3 out of Tampa Bay. You head on the road for a 4-game series, and you kick underway with a loss. A couple good things coming out of the game. Last night though, they fall short 3-4. Luke Weaver makes his 2023 debut, and he goes 6 innings, giving up 4 hits, 4 runs, walking 2 batters, and striking out 8. Allows 2 home runs in the game. He picks up the L, and this is the first game of the season for Luke Weaver. And although he gave up, he picks up the L, it was a lack of offense, right? Something that the Reds have not been able to score in 24 consecutive innings, which is a concern. It becomes an issue. Understanding, all right, against Tampa Bay, they're going to be a dominant team. Coming into Pittsburgh, you got to be able to score. I mean, I know that the records show that Pittsburgh is right now, They're 13-7. Just a game and a half behind Milwaukee. But, I mean, you got to be able to score. It's the Pirates. You're on the road. This is a series where I say that the Reds still look better on paper, but the Pirates look better on the field, which is unfortunate. And it's like, what kept them in the game was the simple mistakes that Pittsburgh made throughout the course of the later innings that kept the Reds in the game up until the very end. Jonathan India goes 3 for 4 with a run and an RBI, and there you have it. That's the game. So, it's not a great way to start off against Pittsburgh. We got 3 more games coming ahead of us, and this is kind of how we look like right now. If we have to be, if we see it, we see Luke Weaver yesterday against Contreras. We'll have Graham Ashcraft expected on the mound this afternoon against Mitch Keller. Last time we saw Keller, Hill, and Vince Velasquez was back on opening weekend. We'll see Luis Cessa on Saturday, and then we'll see Hunter Greene on Sunday. So at the end, this is the projecting rotation that was expected to start opening day. And we finally see all of them start making their way in. Now, we'll see Nick Lodolo back at home against Texas. Now, my biggest question and my biggest concern and thought moving forward was to see Hunter Greene get pushed back to Monday, in my opinion. But it's kind of I know he got a hit off the right leg, the tibia, and it just was a contusion. It wasn't nothing serious. But for me, you just got done signing him a long-term extension. You just don't want to, in my opinion, just throw him back out there. You want to keep him in the mix, of course, I get it. But I would have just gave him one extra day, start fresh back at home next Monday against the Rangers, and just maybe conclude a bullpen day. You think about this, you'll have 3 games before you have a day off, and then I think you head on the road to the West Coast. So this is going to be an interesting series. You're already down 0-1 against the Pirates. This is they're playing really well baseball in the month of April. So Graham Ashcraft has his work for him. Come out, and I think that Ashcraft, Cessa, Greene, they could all pitch tremendously. It's going to be up to the offense. And one thing that I will say and give credit to that I really enjoyed watching over the last week alone, and especially against teams like the Phillies and the Rays, who are been more prone to working into the bullpen. Our bullpen has been quite solid for the last couple of series, and it continued in last night. All the runs provided was given by Luke Weaver, so hopefully that continues. And I mean, now we just need our starting rotation to in our offense to pick it up a little bit, right? I mean, it's always going to be. I think this season is always going to be a back and forth battle with how everything is, and it's either going to be our bullpen struggling, our offense struggling. I would like if all 3 categories could get on the same page at the same time, then I'd be pretty excited. Taking a look for the weekend at what we see here. Expected yesterday, the Cubs fall short to the Dodgers 6-2. Although Cody Bellinger went the long ball in the game, hitting a home run. Being said, they carry over into today. Coming up here at 2:20 Eastern time, the Dodgers and the Cubs will get underway. Then we'll have the Reds and the Pirates at 6:35. Then a little later on, it will be Boston and Milwaukee, which, by the way, as I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of the program, head on over to our YouTube page tomorrow at 6:30 pregame show for the Boston Red Sox and Milwaukee for Saturday Night Baseball. And we'll finish things off today with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Seattle Mariners at 10 o'clock. So a lot of things coming forth here for heading into the weekend in the world of baseball. Fernando Tatis Jr. made his his 80-game suspension return yesterday with the Padres. He's also taken a new role as a right fielder instead of playing shortstop, and so it's gonna be mixed emotion, and not mixed emotion. There's gonna be some heckling going on as the season progresses, as Tatis returns and makes his way around the ball, around ballparks. They went on to win 7-5, so that's another team that is looking to get on the right track as well. That's the Padres, for example, are one of those teams that are looking to get on the right track, but they're kind of, they're kind of meeting eye to eye with the Cincinnati Reds in similar cases. Bullpen's not working well. Offense is, struggling. Rotation seems to have issues once in a while. And yet, though, that's a team that is expected to win the division in the National League West, as well as even go on to the World Series this year. And, I was just talking to my brother about that yesterday. You was born and raised in San Diego, talked to him all the time about the Padres. And, I listen to a lot of their, stations out there still. And it's, one of the biggest things is it time to hit the panic button for a good team, a team that on paper that is double or nothing, to be honest, right? Is this a team that, it's time to hit the panic button because things don't go their way? And I just thought it was an interesting topic because at the end of the day, you have the Dodgers, who are notorious to be a great team, still have high expectations, and they're not playing so well. The New York Yankees are always high expectations. They're not playing so well. And I was talking to him last night. I was like, yesterday, I was like, hey, listen, the Dodgers, they're not playing well, and they're hitting the panic button, right? The Yankees, they're expected to do well. They're not in first place, and they're not hitting the panic button. The Houston Astros are not hitting the panic button, and they're getting off to a slow start. So there are teams out there right now that are expected to perform at a top-tier level, all right, expected to win their divisions, highlight, the playoffs, and host the World Series this year, that are not playing well. They're not dominating their division. They're not, a lot of them are dead last in the middle of the mix, and yet they're not hitting the panic button. And it's like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? It's 162 games, and we play until September, and anything can happen in baseball. We're seeing Texas right now lead the AL West, and when was the last time that you clearly saw the Rangers contend for April or for September? I mean, we're already only April 21st, and there are teams that are going berserk. This is also what's so fun about Major League Baseball. And if you're a baseball fan, you would understand and you agree with me. This is why we enjoy this sport, is because throughout the course of the season, we're seeing the possibilities of teams that ideally don't make sense in the playoffs. I mean, the teams that lead right now, majority of the time, are not the teams that lead at the end of the season. Arizona's in first place in the NL West. How long listen, don't get me wrong. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks, just like as among the other 29 teams in baseball, anybody can have a good season and go on to the playoffs. But, realistically, how long do you expect the Diamondbacks to hold? They have a great young group of talents, really like the organization. They just got rid of Madison Bumgarner, DFA'd him. And I think that's a big chip off of their shoulder, to be honest. So, but my point is that at the end of the day, is that this is a long season and anything can happen. Arizona Diamondbacks up front, they could have a great season or they could fall by June. All right. Same thing with the Texas Rangers. They could fall by June. Minnesota, right? Minnesota's led, has last couple of years led the division up until the very last month. Last year, look at the New York Mets. They led the NL East up until the very last game or last weekend series against the Braves. We were calling that one. That was an exciting time. This is why baseball is so much fun. And we're just getting underway. It's only April 21st, right? I mean, all season ahead of us. All right, when we come back, let's get you down to what is going on locally. Take a look at some college action, and plus the Cyclones begin their Kelly Cup playoffs today. So let's take you to the bottom half of hour number one. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Like they don't give a damn, girl. And my God, she owns it. So many heartbreaks, goes back to 2014. And I think that she knows. If you've seen her, I know that you would believe it. Cause I know that you'd want her to. Yeah, I do. Everyone's taking their shot, but missing out on the cut. I think she knows that. She drives them crazy when she's looking like that. The way she's moving makes her want it so bad. Gets the attention that we wish that we had. Yeah, it's almost cruel, cause I want her to.
Alrighty, welcome on back. 10:42 here on a Friday. Want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, a proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create your podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out the free version today at StreamYard.com. Also, by Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Alrighty. It's quite interesting. So Oakland A's are in a little bit of a predicament because, excuse me, make sure I clear my throat. So I was looking at the standings, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff with Oakland Athletics. They're coming into tonight's ball game, okay? And Oakland will be playing. Are they playing? Yep, they're on the road. They'll be taking takes on the Texas Rangers. But Oakland is going to be has started the season off 3-60. Very much similar to how the Cincinnati Reds last season started. And earlier this week, I saw an article how A's fans were going to reverse boycott the June 13th game against the Tampa Bay Rays. And despite saying their case is saying, hey, it's not the fans, it's the team that you put out there. And over the last couple of years, the A's have, basically has sold the team. That's why the Padres picked up Bob Melvin, and quite, quickly afterwards, we've seen a lot of players leave Oakland and get traded off. Well, this whole idea for Oakland is designed to get out of Oakland at that, the Coliseum. They played for so long, used to share the stadium with the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, and they got the Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. And coming out yesterday, there was an article, and I want to see if I can find it real quick. Maybe I can, maybe I don't. But Oakland Athletics has signed a bidding agreement to purchase 49 acres with the option for additional land near the Vegas Strip. The A's intend to build a stadium that seats at least 30,000, that has a partially retractable roof. There intends to relocate ahead of the 2027 season. So, at the beginning of the week, you got fans saying that this organization, it's not because of us. They're terrible because of the A's. Well, the A's have this dynamic, and they look like they're finalizing a deal for Las Vegas. And there's already been talks about expansion teams, and I don't know really how that works, and that's all fine and dandy, but those are all rumors, right? Until it actually happens, until we see it happen, those are just rumors. It's kind of hard to see, after almost 20 years, see a ball club or see Major League Baseball expand to 20 plus 30 teams. Kind of have to reconfine that whole American League, National League division. I mean, it was just about 10 years ago that Houston went to American League so we could even 5 teams a division. So I don't know. I say go. I say go fans, because just because they're relocating, just because they're looking to get a new stadium, doesn't mean that they honestly need anything more, anything less. They should still be playing well. We should still be holding them accountable to playing well, right? I mean, as a matter of fact, you should play better. So especially. All right, let me put it this way: especially going into Vegas, where you already have the Raiders, and they have expectations. The A should have expectations, and I'm sure that Vegas, nonetheless, is not going to accept a terrible baseball team. You're not going to come into a city and gut your team and expect them to love you and adore you and to stand by you through thick and thin. You're going to have to go out there and win some games, excuse me. So we'll follow that story, but I thought that was interesting. It makes me wonder, is that still going to happen if they know that the team's leaving in the next 4 years? College baseball around here, we'll kick things off with Xavier, who will be at Villanova starting today, a 3-game series after losing to Kentucky 13-2 back on Tuesday of this week. Gosh, excuse me. Xavier's coming into today's game 22-15, 4-2 in conference play with a 2-game losing streak. Last weekend they took looks like they took 1 of 3 against Connecticut. They're looking to change things around with Villanova this weekend. The Cincinnati Bearcats, after a tough 7-3 loss against Indiana back on Wednesday, will be at home to take on Tulane. Green Waves. That's the team's name. Cincinnati is going to go into today's game 15-22, 3-6 in conference play with a 4-game losing streak. Their home stands right now sits at 8-7. So looking to get onto the right track this weekend for the Cincinnati Bearcats. I don't know. We'll see how things go. Looks like it's about to rain. The game's expected to get underway in about 2 hours. I'm wondering if they're going to postpone that, but it's supposed to start at 1 p.m. Matter of fact, a couple hours from now. So we'll see how that works. Let's see if there's any other information that I can share with you on that. Game times today's at 1, tomorrow is at 2 p.m., and on Sunday it's at high noon at the UC Baseball Stadiums. Tickets are still available. Tulane comes into this game 11-26, 4-5 in the AAC all-time series. Tulane leads 47-20. Last meeting was back on May 27, 2022, where Tulane defeated Cincinnati 13-5 in the AAC championship in Florida. So all right, that's all we have for that. So, ECHL playoffs, Kelly Cup playoffs begin today, and for the Cincinnati Cyclones as they get ready to take on the Komets. In game 1 and game 2 will be tonight and tomorrow. Both nights puck drops at 7:30. Tickets, I'm assuming, are still available, but if you guys are in the area looking for some hockey, something fun and exciting to root against and talk about, check out the ECHL playoffs, Kelly Cup playoffs tonight, tomorrow in Cincinnati in this weekend series. All right, let's kind of change into a little bit different subjects here at the bottom half of hour number 1. We'll start off with the Cincinnati Bearcats. Linebacker Jaqualin Qua Bursong from Georgia, 6 foot 3 inches tall, 200 pounds linebacker, is the highest UC recruiter ever, as he was recruited to the Cincinnati Bearcats earlier this week. other major options of ball clubs he could have joined was Arkansas, Michigan, Miami, Gators, Central Florida, but he chose Cincinnati, which is a relief, expecting that we need some top, tier, exciting, ready to go players. But as well as we could talk about exciting news, there also are some devastating news. And we just found out earlier this week that UC quarterback Ben Bryant has entered the transfer portal, and he's looking at his other options. There are two quarterbacks right now contending for that number one spot, and he's looking to see what other options are out there. Now, Bryant has mentioned that Cincinnati isn't officially off the table quite yet, but if there's another option available that's more enlightening, then he's going to definitely consider taking it. Last season, he threw for 2,732 yards, 61.2% completion rate, 213 for 348, 201 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And it's a kind of a bummer. I think there is so much that goes into college sports, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, or even playoffs, and especially entering that transfer portal. Now, I mean, I say, listen, if you can play your way into a top tier team, then absolutely. I mean, listen, we're excited about getting Cullen from Georgia, as a linebacker. I mean, I think that's going to help our defense out tremendously. But to see a top team, both quarterbacks are going into their senior year, and it's, you don't want to see them leave. I mean, I don't want to see them leave personally, but at the same time, you don't want to hold them back from their career, especially how these NFL drafts go. As of late, you want to make your best candidate as much as possible. So we want to wish Ben Bryant the best of luck. Hey, listen, nothing happens. You come on back and, still earn a spot and win a spot as a starting quarterback here. Cincinnati Bengals, on the other hand, partners now with Skyline Chili. And this was something that came out earlier this week. I just got to talk about it. I've had my fair share of Skyline and Gold Star. And I've always thought that Skyline was the proud chili for the Bengals, right? But it's been official. They're moving from Gold Star Chili to Skyline Chili. And I'm gonna throw it out there. I think it's the home of Cincinnati. I mean, maybe the market brand is much more. They put more into marketing Skyline Chili across the region, but Skyline Chili has officially been picked up by the Cincinnati Bengals for this season, and I think this is quite some good deal. Now, I've been asked, which one's my favorite. Like I said, I've had my fair share of Gold Star and Skyline. I'm gonna personally, I think, choose Skyline. I think the problem I have is that when I get hungry for either Skyline or Gold Star chili, I think it upsets my stomach, right? I get that craving, and so after I have one portion, I want to have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like 2 nights, and then I just get sick to my stomach to the point where I don't want to see it for like the next 6 months. That's just kind of how, for someone who loves pasta and definitely loves this type of pasta, it's kind of a bit different for me. Other news coming out for the Cincinnati Bengals: Joe Mixon pleads not guilty and had a bond of $10,000 set Wednesday in Hamilton County. Mixon, 26-year-old, charged with a single count of aggravated menacing. Police said he pointed a gun at a woman during a road rage incident back in January. And the Bengals are basically asking Joe Mixon to take a pay cut. 2020 Bengals Mixon, 4 years, $48 million contract. That's what he has signed. 2022 season, he ran for 814 yards with 7 touchdowns. Duke Tobin's asking Mixon, to either take a pay cut or he could potentially be released from the organization. So this is going to mean, listen, I think if if a pay cut's been asked from Joe Mixon, regardless, I mean, the Bengals are going to ask, is going to take a huge risk trying to keep him. If you're up to me, I release. But you're coming into, you got what, another year or two on your contract, 2020. So what, you're coming up into your final year of your contract. You didn't have a good 2022 season. I mean, hopefully you could bounce back if everything goes well. I don't think after the contract happens, Mixon and Bengals will unite once again. I feel like this is going to kind of be it. But I think the ball is in the Bengals' court, right? They're going to almost get what they want. If Mixon is capable of playing and he wants to play, then by all means, I feel that Mixon will take a pay cut. It would, I think, hurt the organization to lose a running back that has potential, of course. Yeah, everyone has a bad season, but at the end of the day, I think that the Bengals should keep him for 1 year, and I think that's been great offering him a contract. I feel that it's gonna. I don't think there's any positive way. We're just gonna. It's gonna be part of ways here by at least the end of the next year, if not sooner. And that all depends on how Mixon handles it. All right, hour number 1 is complete. Let's come on back with hour number 2. We still got NBA and NHL updates and highlights. We got to get ready for SmackDown tonight. A couple of titles on the line as we look into the weekend. All that still to come. You guys are listening to The Throw-In right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 here on the program. We'll welcome everyone back to The Throw-In that's me right here on the PNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 is given to you thanks to Spreaker from iHeartRadio. Spreaker, upload your podcast and be able to see your analytics and get monetized. All through that, distribute your podcast through all major platforms such as iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and much more. Check out their options today at Spreaker.com. All right, got to talk about these festivals coming out here with in 2023, thanks to Enlighten Studios. And hey, listen, this is how we're just gonna go down. I've been working alongside with many different people throughout this year, so really good experiences. But one of my favorites, I has to be Enlighten Studios. It's not just an incorporation. All right. They do so much more. They give back to the community in many ways than none. They do classes. They host. They work on film projects. They work on theater plays. Excuse me. Terry came up to me. Is a good friend of mine for the last couple of years. Came up to me. Hey, let's get a platform going for these. For Enlighten Studios, right? And he was putting on a theater production called Love's Not Enough throughout the last couple of months. Got a chance to promote it, got a chance to talk to cast members. I actually got a chance to go out there and broadcast live to you guys. And my first broadcast, and I admit if you guys were part of that, didn't turn out the greatest, right? Hopefully we learn, and next time the opportunity presents itself, we'll be better. But overall, all right, this is a really great group of people. They give back to the community. I think the second time around promoting Love's Not Enough, I learned more about the Enlightened Studios and what they're about giving back. they're looking to help people grow with whatever they have options. You want a platform and you want a baseline. Well, here you go. Enlighten Studios has that baseline for you. Terry produced a film called Crime Fighters, which is available on YouTube. Well, he cast the members, but he went down to the UC film classes and said, "Hey, listen, I know you need credits, you need project to work on. Help me produce and film this movie, Crime Fighters." And looking at some of the cast members from the theater play over the past few months, from people who have never performed, never been in theater, production before, the people who are looking to grow further. So they give back. And one of the ways they give back to the community is these Cincinnati festivals that they have coming up, and they volunteer, and they look for anyone who wants to volunteer. You don't have to do it, but we encourage you. He has time slots available. Terry just sent me the time slots, which actually I'm going to go ahead and post time slots out there for the Italian festival, June 8th through the 11th, which is the first one coming up here in about 2 months, and about a month from now, right? A little over a month and a half. Okay. So it'll be on Friday from 4 to 11. They got 2 time slots available on Saturday, and they'll have 2 time slots available on Sunday. And what it is at these festivals, all right, they're down here on the levee, all right, just on the Ohio Riverbank, right? They're in Newport, right? Newport on the levee. If you guys go down there, all right, that's where these festivals are located at. And they have amazing foods. They got trucks, foods, drinks, beverages, live music. And what they're looking for is volunteers to come out and take part of it. You get to enjoy all that stuff, as well as getting to interact with the crowds and the people and see the chemistry that comes of it, right? And then you also get to, by the way, keep your tips. Hey, you work there, you help volunteer, you get to keep your tips, make some money. I mean, I don't know how much money these people make. Remember, I got to get Terry back on here and actually see, and maybe I get a couple of people that come out on here and over the next month and just see what we can do. But let's sign up. Let's help out. Let's give back to the community. Let's show everyone why Cincinnati is a wonderful place, and let's go out there and volunteer. And so the way that you could volunteer here, okay, is by signing up, by emailing enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com. Sign-ups are available. Email them now. You'll get the whole rundown of the information and the list of what goes on, how it works, what you need to do. Not complicated, really. It's not. And then you just head out there, right? Email them, sign up for a slot, tell them that Justin sent you, whatever, make it happen. I'm working on trying to be out there yet. Don't want to commit to anything quite yet. Once I have confirmation and whatnot, I'll let you know. We're trying to be out there. So sign up today at enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com for more information. I had to make sure I get that out there. All right. So where do we want to start? Let's start off with the NHL. All right, we got ourselves the Stanley Cup playoffs that began this week, a couple days after the NBA. And yesterday we saw Tampa Bay beat Toronto beat Tampa Bay 7-2. Colorado beat Seattle 3-2. The Rangers beat the Devils 5-1, and the Knights beat Winnipeg 5-2. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. You take a look at the series where it's at, right? Tampa Bay, Toronto, both tied on 1. I think this is going to be a really good series. It's hard to choose one. But if I have to choose a favorite in that series alone, I'm choosing Tampa Bay, right? Colorado and Seattle. This is kind of the first time seeing Seattle in the playoffs. I mean, I know that they're a new marketing team. I would like to see how far Seattle goes taking on the, Avalanche as they're tied to 1-0. Rangers and Devils. I'm rooting for New York Rangers as they have a 2-0 lead so far. That's kind of where just my intentions are at. And then the Knights in Winnipeg. Let me tell you something about Winnipeg. They have themselves a media marketing on TikTok that I subscribe to. And I had a bad taste left in my mouth. When this was back in maybe January or February. I don't quite remember. But back at the beginning of the year, I had a little bad taste in my mouth because I'm trying to learn about hockey. I'm not too big about hockey, but I'm trying to learn about it. And I was hoping that, I was trying to ask questions. I was trying to obtain knowledge that hopefully they were able to provide. And I talked about this when it happened, but they weren't too friendly when I was asking questions. And, I'm sorry. So I do at times listen to TikTok lives, watch the, streamers and whatnot, and sometimes they have games in the background. Sometimes, like what I'm seeing right now trending on TikTok is they'll have a ball game going on in the background. They're trying to sell cards. Well, I don't listen. I'm not the only one. I don't, see a lot of descriptions down below, read everything. But I've been told, it's like, all right, so I'm going to ask about the game. I understand repeating yourself is maybe, uncommon, but you got to make your lives clear about this is what we're here for. This is what we're talking about. And this is the only thing we're talking about. I don't think there has to be any, I would call hatred if someone doesn't understand exactly what your lives are about. Because my first intake, when you have your entire screen filled with a ball game, I want to talk about the ball game. I'm not trying to ban you. I'm not trying to report you. I'm not trying to cause any issues. But if you can't talk about the ball game, you need to be like, all right, we can't talk about the ball game. Please refrain from talking about it. Don't go on this attack of, oh, you know better than this. You guys are just dicks out there. I'm sorry. It's not called for. This is what really frustrates me about, lives like TikTok. I love watching TikTok videos. There's a lot of people I love describing to. But there are a lot of them that are, I'm sorry, a lot of them are anal. And I get it. You're not trying to get banned. You're not trying to get, reported. And I don't want you guys to get that way. You guys work hard for your viewers and for all that stuff. And I would hate to see something bad happen to you, for what you're trying to do. A lot of the people make a living off of it. And I support that. But at the same time, you guys have to have some discretion of explanations instead of just going off on people left and right and left immediately. Maybe a lot of times they're not educated, not aware exactly what the content's about. So I had a bad taste in my mouth with Winnipeg on their media. I'm actually very interested in a lot of Canadian teams, Vancouver, Edmonton. But you know what? I'm sorry. Left a bad taste in my mouth. I hope the Knights win. That's the way I say it. Carol, tomorrow, okay, a little bit of today, excuse me, a little bit of weekend action here. We'll see Carolina Hurricanes, who lead the New York Islanders 2-0. They'll tip puck drops at 7:00. Dallas Stars taking on Minnesota with the tie series 1 apiece. That's at 9:30. Boston Bruins taking on the road with Florida Panthers at tied apiece at 1. That one puck drops at 7:30. And at 10, Edmonton Oilers taking on the Los Angeles Kings. So for me, I like Carolina Hurricanes for the weekend, Dallas Stars, Boston Bruins, and Los Angeles Kings. So those are my 4 favorite. What I also like about NHL is that they don't play around. They're very simple. Every other day, especially in this round 1. As according to basketball, you could have 2 days off, you could have 3 days off, and I'm like, ugh, you're gonna stretch this out as far as possible. And it becomes a bit more difficult to follow and to support. And let's take a look at what's going on in the NBA. So last night we saw the Philadelphia 76ers beat the Brooklyn Nets 102-97. We saw Golden State Warriors 114 beat Sacramento Kings 97. Los Angeles Clippers come short to the Phoenix Suns 129-124. So with these three games, you'd kind of maybe figure, all right, they're going to play. That was yesterday. They'll play Saturday. Well, no, that's not the case. So we have a little bit more we have to discuss. Tonight, 3 games going on. Boston Celtics, Atlanta Hawks. Boston leads 2-0. Tip-off is at 7. Is at 7 o'clock. At 8:30, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the New York Knicks. Series tied at 1. And at 9:30, we'll have the Denver Nuggets taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves as the Denver leads 2-0. So I'm going to say right here in this sense, I like Boston, New York Knicks, and Denver to win the series. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Saturday, 76ers take on Brooklyn. As this is a 7-game series, by the way, which is also quite, I think, interesting to me, how NBA just goes all 7. Like I said, you're going to have 4th of July basketball still going on, regular season, right, playoff season. 76ers leads 3-0. They're the only team that's currently shutting out their opponents. At 3:30, the Phoenix Suns take on the Clippers. As the Sun leads 2-1. The Lakers tied with the Grizzlies as a tip-off is at 10 p.m. 7:30, Milwaukee Bucks taking on Miami Heat. And so right here, I like the Sixers to just close things out. I think maybe Brooklyn could pick up a victory as we see Greene return after a 1-game suspension. But then we'll also see, I like Milwaukee in the 7:30 game. I like to choose Clippers, but I think Phoenix is going to win the series, and then the Lakers I have good faith in. It's interesting. Both Lakers and Clippers will be home tomorrow. And then Sunday, we'll have Cavaliers taking on the Knights as the series tied at 1. Celtics and Hawks as Celtics lead 2-0. Kings and Warriors as Kings lead 2-1. And then the Nuggets and Timberwolves as Denver leads 2-0. So that's how your NBA playoff is kind of running through. A bit different, I guess I would say, among my cup of tea. So let's take a break, come on back. Let's take a look at the NFL draft and a couple of big stories as Josh Allen looks to make a new approach moving forward as at the quarterback position, as well as we will see San Francisco having some issues. And a little bit more about the story of the Jalen Hurts signing the new contract. A new look at what this could mean for future quarterbacks. All that still to come. Hour number 2 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $11:21 here on the program. Welcome on back here to the throw-in here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, the NFL draft here is just in about 6 days away, a week away before we see what goes on and what's going to be taking place. And I think it's going to be, there's a couple of interesting points to be made. But before we get to the NFL draft, we got to talk about Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills. Now, last week, or actually, matter of fact, earlier this week, we saw the announcement of DeMar Hamlin returning, which was very exciting. And I was pleased by this notion. I mean, I wish him the best of luck. He says, apparently, according to reports, he is fully clear to return to football activities. Now, he's expected to hopefully one day make a return in the game. I still don't know how long his future is going to be. But Buffalo is one of those teams, in my eyes, that we see dominant, at the top of the food chain, along with Kansas City and recently along with the Cincinnati Bengals. And, the Bengals right now, with another year, hopefully, coming up this year, and we'll have a lot of talk about this offseason with that. But this is the year that, Bengals need to yet again prove. It seems like every year they need to prove something. But the question is that has Buffalo warranted their time? Have they stayed a little too long at the top without being successful? It's one thing if you go to the championship game each and every year. For example, let's take the Dodgers in baseball, for example. They can go to the National League Championship Series each and every year. But until they go to they could go to the World Series each and every year. But until they actually win the big one, there's nothing that really puts them in the conversation of being the great of the great. Yeah, you're dominating the National League all season long, each and every year for the past, it felt like eternity, but last, at least 7-8 years? And the only time the Dodgers actually won the World Series was based off of a shortened season where it was more of a sprint, not a marathon. So the Buffalo Bills, and don't get me wrong, Buffalo Bills I think are a very talented team. I still like them. They're still a favorite team of mine in the East. But, they've met their match with Kansas City in the AFC Championship, and up until Cincinnati came through, Buffalo Bills were in that number 2 slot ever since Tom Brady left. Well, that was the window I think is now come and gone. And it's great, but we have to see something quite different from the Bills, especially now from Josh Allen. Josh Allen kind of questioned himself here. He issued a statement stating, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm getting older. Fair enough. It's his 5th year in the league. Let me see. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen says he needs to alter his playing style and moving forward. And he basically goes on and says, and I quote, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm getting older. It's like I can't continue to do this. I know when I'm using my youth, I feel like I can. But over the course of my career, I'm going to have to learn to adapt and change. And I've always had the mindset of being a football player first and a quarterback second. And at some point, that's going to have to switch. When that point is, I don't know. I guess I'll let my body tell me. Now, Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks, right, who sits there and he has himself a good, he's a good quarterback. But one of my problems with Josh Allen is that he always is willing to put his body out there each and every game, which is a good thing. But we've seen quarterbacks who have sustained, crucial injuries. For example, Tua Tagovailoa, right? He went out there and he gets concussions because he plays as a football player first, quarterback second. Josh Allen is basically out there saying that he understands that he's getting older. He understands that he's going to have to adapt and change to the game that he's capable of playing at his age. And maybe that's not as versatile, all right, being able to move outside the box, being able to take the chance and running for it, and getting hit every during every single, session. He's going to have to stay in the pocket. He's going to have to utilize his receivers and running backs more. He's going to have to rely on his offensive line a little bit more. And, I appreciate that he comes to the acknowledgement of it, right? This past season, in 5 seasons, Josh Allen has played in 77 games, 2,566 attempts to 1,604 completions. That's a 62.5% completion rate. 18,387 yards, 138 touchdowns, 60 interceptions, 151 sacks, 549 rushing to 3,087 yards of rushing. That's an average of 5.65 average per rushing yards. 38 touchdowns. My thing is I think the window is starting to run out of Josh Allen. Everyone a year ago was up there saying that Josh Allen was one of these quarterbacks that, all right, he can play, he can move, he is one of the best, but until you win it, you're not there yet. And what we've seen over the last 2 years and what the abilities that Josh Allen has had to show with, at his age, we haven't seen the Bills make it back to the AFC Championship in 2 years. So what changes does the Bills have to make? And how much of that change is Josh Allen? If Josh Allen is, though, willing to make an effort and adjust his gameplay, then I'm assuming that the Buffalo Bills are willing to do so as well. I think right now there's 2 things on the table for Buffalo that the Bills are going to have to look at coming into this season. The time is ticking to get Josh Allen a Super Bowl ring. Now, I know he's a young quarterback. He's only spent 5 seasons in the NFL. But see, these comes in stages. You have so much success that bring you up, and it keeps you there for a while, and you start dropping down. The last 2 years, last year you got knocked out by the Bengals, who is this young and upcoming team, and 2 years ago you got knocked out by the Kansas City Chiefs, who have always been the team to knock you out. So I guess the question is moving forward, how does the Bills change? And if they can change, can they get to the top of that food chain? Right? Can they find a way to beat the Bengals and find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? This is going to make and turn out to be another very interesting draft season for the AFC, because Josh Allen is, Bills are looking to get over the hump that, and get over and beat the teams like the Bengals and the Chiefs. The Bengals look to finally surpass the Patriots and go on to win a Super Bowl. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy, I have no doubt that the Chiefs will also walk back into the playoffs. And you also now consider in, some of the other things that will lead into this next segment of the NFL draft and the new teams that still have to come. The Chargers were close. The Jaguars, and Trevor Lawrence, hopefully just to keep on getting better and better each and every year. I think one of the concerns we run into with Josh Allen, it's the timetable. And I think the same question could be asked for Cincinnati. right? There is once you start becoming a successful team, there is a timetable to execute that. If not, you're going to be held back. Just like, hey, listen, Kansas City is executing that success, that timetable that they have, and they're making the most of it. I don't see Cincinnati and I don't see Buffalo get most out of what they are having to offer. And that timetable is running out. And when I say timetable is running out, I mean we're seeing guys such as, we're seeing teams like, Miami's trying to get better. If it wasn't for all the injuries, Miami gave Buffalo a run for their money. The Jets are trying to impact and get Aaron Rodgers to come over from Green Bay, which we'll talk about here in a second. That's going to be something that they're going to have to do by next week to have an understanding of the draft. And then you see New England, Bill Belichick trying to fight to get back to a playoff so he could prove to everyone that it wasn't all Tom Brady, that he can win a championship without Tom Brady. Same thing with the Bengals. Ravens, I know they have Lamar Jackson issues. But boy, I tell you, the first step of acknowledging everything is understanding that you have to make change. 2023 draft is all about the change. And we got the top 10 lists right here. In 6 days, Carolina Panthers will be on the clock to pick up the first draft pick. The question lies is who are they going to pick? Is it going to be CJ Stroud? Is it going to be Bryce Young? Or are they not going to go through a quarterback rating? As there's teams out here on this top 10, just let's go over the top 10 real quick. We got Carolina Panthers at 1, the Houston Texans, Arizona, and don't forget Carolina switched with the number 9 pick in Chicago Bears. That means for Chicago, they're reluctant and they're reliant, trusting Justin Fields at quarterback position. We'll see how that goes. Houston comes in at number 2. Arizona comes in at number 3. Indianapolis comes in at number 4. And for Denver trading last season with Russell Wilson, Seahawks gets number 5. The Lions, same thing with the Rams. Lions will get number 6. Raiders will get number 7. Falcons will get number 8. Number 9 is the Bears, and the number 10 is the Philadelphia Eagles. So let me ask you this. We have very limited of quarterbacks. And, so you go down this list. Does the Panthers need a quarterback? Of course they do. But but I think the bigger question is from out of all these teams, how close are they away from being a contingency team or even a Super Bowl team? Right? You got to ask yourself that question. Is Houston a quarterback away from winning? Because before you make the step, there's no point in drafting quarterbacks. Let's be honest here. There's no point in drafting quarterbacks if your team is not ready to make that playoff step. If the missing link of your team is not a quarterback, then you have no purpose, at least in the first round, to be picking up quarterbacks. But how do you bypass a guy like Levi Stroud or Bryce Young? I mean, do you? So we have a 10 list. Detroit Lions, they got Jared Goff. If I really look at this list, I really go down this list. Panthers, possibility. I could see Panthers picking up a draft pick. Houston Texans, yes. I feel like it would be a terrible deal if they don't pick up a quarterback. Arizona Cardinals, it all depends if they want to continue with Kyle Murray or move on. Colts, pick up a quarterback. Seahawks, I'd be, no quarterback. Detroit, no quarterback. Raiders, I think this is a time. This is a strand with maybe Will Levis to pick up a quarterback. Atlanta Falcons, maybe. Bears, no. Eagles, no. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 teams all have valid reasoning to pick up a quarterback. In apparently I got something on my app. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I guess my point is that, there's going to be a tough situation problem. All right, let's cut to break. And when we come back, San Francisco has quarterback problems. Talk about quarterbacks coming up in the draft, quarterback problems in San Francisco. And what does Jalen Hurts' contract mean moving forward for 2-star quarterbacks? We'll explain to that coming up next here on The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Be sure to join us here tomorrow night. Pre-game show starts at 6:30 for the Boston Red Sox and Milwaukee. Game 2 of a 3-game series beginning tonight. Be broadcasting live here tomorrow night.
Boss ass.
Live coverage on the TNC Sports Talk starts at 6:30. Make sure you hit your notification buttons for more information. Alrighty. Welcome on back here. It is a Friday. We still got a lot to talk about here in the NFL, and don't forget, we'll definitely have some time to talk a little bit about SmackDown here tonight. Don't worry. Still a lot busy last 18 minutes of the program. So let's get right down to it. Quarterback problems in the NFL, especially for the San Francisco 49ers in this sense. And you would think last year, I thought San Francisco had problems with quarterback issues. And one of the big decisions that the 49ers had to prepare and ask themselves and decide was what was the future for their quarterback, right? A lot of times, there's 2 types of scenarios that you can play towards if you're a team. One, you could pick up a long-term quarterback, guys like Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and build the team around them. There's other quarterbacks where you don't feel comfortable touching them with the 10-foot pole until you have the rest of the team built up already. So 2 types of quarterbacks or situations you look into. Last year, the 49ers decided to go with Trey Lance. And I really was against it because I like Jimmy Garoppolo the better. And it all worked out best for me in the sense that I didn't wish that Trey Lance got hurt, but he got hurt within the first month. Jimmy Garoppolo held the fort down, but then he got hurt. So we know that Garoppolo's out. We know that the quarterback scenario for San Francisco is going to go down to Trey Lance or to even Brock Purdy, who really made himself a name last season being that third-string rookie that no one talked about, no one expected anything from him, and he went down to, into the playoffs and held his own quite well before he got hurt. But see, he went under the knife this offseason and had elbow surgery. And now there's a possibility that Brock Purdy is not going to be able to play the 2023 season, which is a massive blow because now the 49ers are relying on Trey Lance to stay healthy throughout the season moving forward. Trey Lance, though, 49ers seem to even have some questions about Trey Lance and his longevity of staying healthy himself. So what does San Francisco intend to do during the draft? Well, there's not many quarterbacks available, and if they can stumble across a quarterback, I think it'd be impressive. But do you decide to go around that draft pick and say, all right, listen, we're going to go ahead and just we'll go ahead and just sit there and, draft who we want to draft and then find a backup free agent quarterback. So I don't know how San Francisco is going to be this season. It doesn't, injuries piled up on the Rams last year. People are excited about Seattle Seahawks. I'm not going to bet any pennies worth for Arizona in conversations. So San Francisco may get very lucky in the scenario of that, besides maybe Seattle and possibly Los Angeles, they can still hold the NL West. But you're taking a risk on Trey Lance being still that guy that we went for last season. The other question is the quarterback status for other quarterbacks around the league that is looking to get a payday from the NFL. But Jalen Hurts seems to cap that, acceptance. Now, when we first talked about Jalen Hurts getting this massive contract extension, I believe for 6 years, $255 million. I'm like, wow. But this puts a market value understanding of other quarterbacks that are looking or seeking to get paid, especially if they're good quarterbacks, such as guys like Joe Burrow. We talked heavily about Joe Burrow. I wouldn't be doubtful that he would be asking for at least that much, if not more. And I don't think that the Bengals wouldn't have a problem signing him. But I don't know, when you start talking about $300 million for a contract extension, I think that's a little expensive. I wouldn't put it past me that the Bengals can't afford it. But when you afford a contract like that, especially on a limitation, you got to fill 50 other men. I don't know if you're going to be able to extend contracts out for everyone else. So everyone else is taking a pay cut while your quarterback is getting paid time of a lifetime. And you know what? Joe Burrow, if Jalen Hurts got a contract extension of that amount, Joe Burrow deserves a contract well over $250 million. But what happens with the quarterbacks such as Lamar Jackson, who recently turned down an offer for, I think, about $300 million at one point? You got to start asking yourself what team would want a quarterback. If that's the budget, is Lamar Jackson worth $250 plus million? I mean, he didn't really end it off the 2022 season with the ideal recognition with his injury. And I'm sorry, you could call it what it is, but still not showing up to the playoff game, which you had all week to drive down there and make your way down there to support your team. I don't care what the case may be, but not showing up, I think, is ridiculous. So at the end of the day, so a team like a quarterback like Lamar Jackson can be suffered through this deal, and he may not have any other options other than sticking with Baltimore. Also who also is going to have struggles? Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm pretty confident that both the Jets, the Packers, and Rodgers have to come up with a deal before the beginning of the draft, because the Jets have to understand where they're at on this draft poll and if they have a quarterback of the future. And so for me, I feel like if this deal doesn't get done by next week, then Aaron Rodgers most likely ain't going over to New York and playing for the Jets. I just don't see it being possible because of that. But maybe this re-sparks interest in Aaron Rodgers, who I think is better than Jalen Hurts. Should he get paid more than $250 million? So The other thing is coming out of San Francisco in the trades, there was already kind of some low-key conversations and rumors about potential trades that that the 49ers could give up for Trey Lance. All of them came out of Minnesota. And a couple of them, I'm just going to relay and see. Let me know which ones sound interesting. Vikings get Trey Lance and the this year's 3rd round pick for the 49ers, who gets Kirk Cousins and next year's 2nd round pick. Does that sound intriguing? Second option is the Vikings get Trey Lance for 49ers, who gets this year's 3rd round pick for the Vikings and the next year's 3rd round pick. Or the final option for the Vikings is to get quarterback Trey Lance. For 49ers will get defensive end Danielle Hunter and this year's 3rd round pick. Does any of those really spark interest in your eyes and opinions? I don't know. All I can say is that the NFL draft is coming up here next week, and you have to get excited for playing. You have to get excited for the things that happen, because these are nice, juicy stories. Before I get into SmackDown, I gotta check this out. I was just gonna check something because I saw it. Let's see. Bear with me. All right, SmackDown is tonight at 8 p.m. on Fox. A couple of title matches are scheduled to take place. We see the Intercontinental Championship match be defended by Gunther, taking on, and his challenger will be Xavier Woods. We will also see the Women's Tag Team Championship match as Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez take on Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. If and when that pops up, right? Here we go. This was an article just given out about 5 minutes. I saw this on Sports Center here just a moment ago. This is coming from The Athletic. Lions Jamison Williams among 5 players suspended by NFL for gambling policy violations. All right, 5 players here. 4 Lion players and 1 Commander player has been suspended by NFL for violating the NFL's policy on sports betting. The league announced Friday. Here's what you need to know. Receiver Quintez Cephas and defensive back C.J. Moore has been suspended indefinitely by the league for betting on the NFL games. The Lions released them shortly after the NFL's announcement. Receivers Jamison Williams and Stanley Berryhill received 6-game suspensions for betting on non-NFL games from the NFL facility. Commanders defensive end Shaka Tony was also suspended indefinitely for the betting on NFL games. Both Berryhill and Williams can participate in off-season and preseason activities leading up to their suspensions, which will begin on the final roster cut down date. As a result of an NFL investigation, it came to our attention that a few of our players had violated the league's gambling policy, said Detroit Lions Executive Vice President and General Manager Brad Holmes. These players exhibited a decision making that is not consistent with our organization's values and violates league's rules. We have made the decision to part ways with Quintez and CJ immediately. So that's just some breaking news coming out of the end here of the NFL today. So let's quickly talk about what's going on here in WWE. I have for you, potentially, to wrap up our show, 6 potential guys who can look at dethroning Roman Reigns. So here's what we'll see tonight on SmackDown. We'll see Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defend their titles against Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. We will see the Intercontinental Championship up for grabs as Gunther defends his title against Xavier Woods. We will also see Braun Strowman and Ricochet take on the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar. But one of the biggest questions is who could dethrone Roman Reigns? And I'm going to carry this over into Monday's episode, but I want to give you guys 6 potential names to think about, and I want you guys to think about why. And after that, we'll go ahead and discuss on Monday more in depth at length on who could potentially dethrone Roman Reigns. Now, some of these guys look ideal. Some of these guys don't look ideal. And I'll give you my personal take. This was actually given thanks to Bleacher Report. Coming in at number 6 is Gunther, who they believe could be one who can dethrone Roman Reigns. He's had an impressive year so far, retains the Intercontinental Championship, and he's having a year to remember. Seth freaking Rollins. Now, I've seen Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins before. Not really quite up to speed with wanting to Seth Rollins back in that picture range. I think it needs to move on. I can see Rollins with the U.S. title, with the Intercontinental title, but, there's just a lot to be said. Coming in at number 4 is Jey Uso. You start off with the bloodline, you end with the bloodline. I like the brothership. I do think maybe Solo Sikoa has higher power in my belief to actually dethrone Roman Reigns. Just imagining that type of match. But you would also want to throw in maybe a guy like Dwayne Johnson, if that's still an option, which I still think it's maybe right now very slim to none. Number 3, Bobby Lashley. I never really got a chance to see fully Bobby Lashley versus Roman Reigns one-on-one. And if this was a clean match, what could this really present? Coming in at number 2 is the return of Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I could. And coming in at number 1 is Cody Rhodes, who we believe will throughout the course of the year. So that is my top 6. That wraps up our show for today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Have those notifications on, and don't miss a single episode. For everyone who's watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, thank you. Anyone who's listening to us and downloading us, thank you as well. Be sure to tune us in tomorrow, Saturday, April 22nd at 6:30 for the pregame show between the Boston Red Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. All right, other than that, the Throne will return on Monday. Be sure to stick around and stay tuned. You guys have yourself a wonderful Friday, and we will see you guys later on. Take care.